Okay, everybody, I know it's been a long time since we've chatted, but I need to talk to you guys about stuff that's been going on recently. There seems to be a couple of movements that are going on that are somewhat under the surface, and, you know, I don't know if they're ignored by the corporate media. The corporate media is such a bad joke that I suspect that they're unaware of anything that regular people have to say or the way regular people think. But there's movements afoot that you won't hear of. And let me give you a couple of examples. One of them alludes to what I had talked with you guys about the last time we connected, which was the kind of Jason Whitlock, Curtis Schoon, Hotep movement within the black community. And I say that because, well, I work in the black community. I'm at Mount Vernon High School in Mount Vernon, New York. And I'm in room 227 at the high school. So you can come say hello during the school year. And I and my students would love to hear other opinions so we can toss them around and see what's up. So this movement, like Schoon TV had the other day, discussion about black lives, and there was a woman asking, Angela Stanton King, asking why lives, according to, I guess you could say, the white progressive or the liberal media or corporate media, the cathedral, why these lives supposedly matter to them unless they're in the womb. Now, that's a regular question. You know, your garden variety white liberal female in particular will start screaming at you about that because it has been trained to never let these thoughts enter into its head. And it's a very logical question. And this is now, as they would say on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, a thing. If Black lives matter, and they do, then why don't they matter before they emerge from the black woman? And why is the presence of the black man, the black father, not on the table? That's a little strange, particularly because for the last, I don't know, easily 25 years that I've been in the school business, the absence of black fathers has been an issue, has been a real problem. So why are these things now couched in a different manner? With lives mattering. And which lives matter? Because if you look at the corporate media, even that reaches the black community, it doesn't make any sense. And these issues are seen as not to be discussed. And that's a little strange. However, in terms of the movement that I've been talking about, there are things going on. I saw the other day, I believe it's both of these statistics. I know the divorce statistic is legit. Now that the boomers have cycled through the system, divorce rates are lower than they were before divorce became, in the late 60s and early 70s, a frontline issue and something that should just be, oh yeah, we're just getting a divorce. Like, nothing. We're going to break up the family. The other one, and I believe I saw this one as well, but Roe v. Wade was in the early 70s, and apparently abortion rates are now lower than they were before Roe v. Wade was put into place, which is, again, another reason why you see so much boomer hate on the internet, is the boomers wanted to get divorced and they wanted to abort their children. The statistics are the statistics. That sentence may offend people. Then you look it up and you come up with a better explanation than why everything between 1967 and 10 years ago, all of that stuff has now subsided. That's the generation that's cycled through the system. If you got a better explanation, tell me. And my mom's a boomer, a legitimate, peace-loving, free-talking, anti-war boomer. But that generation is that generation, and that's why you see this hate. And here's the other thing. Those principles, and Jason Whitlock talked about this eloquently a few months ago, the principles of the white liberal, that hippie, Woodstock, if it feels good, do it, live and let live, do what you want, that kind of thing. Those principles were pushed on the black community, and now those people who did that in the late 60s, early 70s, half of them were feds, Timothy Leary and these people. But the other group, they stayed white. And they then put on a suit in the late 70s and became 80s capitalists and made a killing. Black community didn't have that. They had the riots. They had the communities destroyed. They had the welfare state come in and obliterate their towns. And people are starting to notice this. And I'll leave you with this last bit that I don't know if I'm projecting, I might be. But we had a speaker at the graduation ceremony the other day, this past Friday. And she was a black woman, and good for her. She graduated Mount Vernon High School in 1986, I believe she said. She became an attorney. She's a practicing attorney. She's worked in government. Good for her. She did it right. But what she said to these students, these now graduates, seen by society as adults, was one of the most cringe-worthy, ridiculous, and I think dangerous things I've ever heard. She told the group that she thought, and her parents thought, that the bad old days were over. And she said she didn't care who she offended. Now, she, of course, was talking to the white people in the audience, but this is how we do it. This is how we do it in the Vern. So, which is actually why I like it, just because people aren't hiding behind platitudes. But this woman was still wrong, even though she was brazenly honest, to her credit. She said that she and her parents thought that certain days were over. That the bad old days, things had been moving forward and there was progress. But no, turns out they're not. And what she told the students, 250 plus 18-year-olds, was that the days of asking for equity and equality were over. Not going to ask anymore. She said, when you get out there, you demand equality and equity. Now, I'm at Mount Vernon High School. As I said, we have no white students. We have students who could pass for white. We've got a small group of people from Brazil and Portugal, some from the Dominican Republic. I mean, we've got, basically, we have no WASPs. Let's just put it that way. Zero. And she's telling this community of color, to use a phrase that's popular on the intertubes, that they should go out there and not ask for equity or equality, but demand it. Now, here's what she didn't say. She didn't say from whom. Demand it from who? Demand it where? She didn't say get a skill and work your way up. She didn't say that those things that you learn and the skills that you acquire stay with you no matter where you are. She said, no, don't ask, demand. And she also didn't say, well, what happens if you demand from whomever she said? Now, it was unstated who she was talking about. But she didn't say, what happens if they don't agree? Oh, I demand that I have the same pay, rank, status, responsibility as person X. And then what happens if the person doesn't agree? No, you're not getting that. You're not getting equity or equality or whatever it is you're talking about. You don't get to come in here and demand jack. Now what? Now what? Now what are you going to do? She didn't say go get a skill. She didn't say go learn something. And we have a lot of students that are low skilled. We have students in the past 2 years, they got given Regents diplomas by New York State. They didn't have to sit for the test. They just got the credit. Administration, between a rock and a hard place, made it clear that we were to see to it that our passing rates were very high. Don't you know we're in the middle of a pandemic? So we have 2 years, this last year, which didn't get a long speech, and this year of students with egregiously more fake degrees, even less skill than in normal years. And here this woman says, get out there and demand stuff. Don't ask. So now you're going to have some skill-free graduates who got handed everything the last 2 years of their high school career. And this woman says, get out there and demand shit. Now, that's not going to go well. Luckily, the kind of anti-progressive movement is taking hold slightly, even in a community like mine where I work. And that's the only saving grace. That way, again, I'll mention because I listened to Hotep's Been Told You and Canon Hotep and their guests. I think that's how I found out about Curtis Schoon. Whitlock's been doing his thing in the sports world for 25, 30 years. These ideas are taking hold. You see that in the statistics, and you also see it on the ground. You see it on the ground, right? This woman, she gave a big rousing speech. She was all animated and loud. Now, she has a law degree behind her. She has 40 years of work experience under her belt. Good for her. But people weren't jumping up and hooting and hollering and shaking their... No. I mean, they listened politely, clapped. That was it. I got a shout out from the salutatorian. Thanks, John. I appreciate that. Right? Talking about free thinking. That's a feather in my cap. I have to love myself for that. But these things are going on. You're seeing... I don't know. You want to call it conservative, libertarian. It's hard to label what's happening. Maybe realistic. But this kind of ultra woke stuff, which has never played well in the black community where I work, is spreading even further. And that is a plus. So I'm going to try to do more of these over the summer. And I appreciate you guys taking the time and listening. I've gotten a comment or two, which I have enjoyed. Thank you for that. And I'll talk to you next time. Take care.